Today, we are honored to have Dan Rawitch on the call with us. For those of you who don't know Dan, he is the Nostradamus of the mortgage space. And I think we need him now more than ever. As we all saw, mortgage rates have been climbing over the past few weeks. 10-year treasuries ticking up above 155. And we want to know, A, where we're headed, and B, what we do about where we're headed. So I'm going to share my screen and we will go ahead and get started here. The premise of today is present this here is really going to be built around what we do with Q4, which we're already 6 days into, and then 2022 and 2023. I think that there's a lot of burnout. There's a lot of people who are realizing that they made a lot of money in 2019, 2020, 2021. Maybe that's not the driving force anymore, right? Like, you wanted to make X and now you did, and it didn't feel like you thought. And so there may be a void in terms of your inspiration. You may be trying to figure out what's next. Do you want to stay in production? Do you want to grow your team? Do you want to grow your branch, your region, your company, whatever the case may be? So goal here today is to give you guys the tools to understand where to go and where we believe the market's headed, because there's some real substantial shifts that we're all going to need to make if we have not already. And so we'll start walking through some of those things here today, but feel free to ask questions, unmute yourself, raise your hand, type in the chat box, and we want to make this as communicative as we can. So without further ado, let's get started. So MBA projections for 2022 and 2023. Looking back, their projections were pretty accurate through Q3 of this year. And so we probably will be well suited to listen to their advice moving forward. I think rates are going to rise to about 3.7%. When we look at volume numbers, we did 4.1 trillion in volume for 2020. 2021 dropped off a little bit, 3.74 trillion, but still really good. And then we're forecasted to fall 36% to 2.38 trillion in 2022. Very similar number in 2023, a little bit higher there on purchase volume. But the big one that we all need to be aware of here is that refinances are to fall by 75%, down to 641 billion in 2022, 2023. When we look at a lot of production numbers for top originators or any originator really, we're finding that refinances make up for a lot of originators' production. Sometimes upwards of 80 to 90% of their production is refinance based. Some people even 100%, right? Depending upon the company they work for, the situation they're in. Now, we understand that refinancing is not only good for your business, but it's phenomenal for your clients. So there are originators out there that say they're 100% purchase originators or 90% purchase originators, which I think is irresponsible and inappropriate, because that means that all the clients you've helped buy homes, you're not helping refinance when the opportunity exists. So I think a good mix for everybody to shoot for in the near term is 60-40, 60 purchase, 40 refi. But ultimately, you want to try and get to 75-25 or 80-20 in terms of purchase to refi production, because that is going to create substantial staying power for you and your team and your group in the mortgage space moving forward. Dan, would you add any color to that?
No, I think you're right on the money. I mean, we've always found that in a normal market, whatever that is, but certainly it hasn't been normal for the last couple of years. 75-25, 80-20 is really where the top producers seem to end up. It's a really good place to focus.
Yeah. And obviously last year, if you were 50-50 last year, that's probably really good because a lot of your clients needed to refinance. If you're 60-40 this year, still really good. But we want to try and move that to 75-25 or 80-20. And we're going to give you some of the ways to do it and the reasons why it's going to be important to do that as well. So here's the MBA projections for Q4 of what we're looking at here in 2021, along with all 2022, and then even 2023. What you'll see here is, refinance production in 2020 accounted for 2.6 trillion, 2.1 trillion in 2020, and then all the way down to 641 billion in 2023. So that's where you're going to see that massive drop off. Conversely, however, you're going to see an uptick in purchase. So 1482 in 2020, or 1.48 trillion, 1.6 trillion goes to 1.7, and then up to 1.8. So be less concerned about what rates are going to do and what refinance business will do, and be more concerned about what you can control, which is helping families buy homes. And there's a lot of ways in which we can help you accomplish that. Again, refis fall by 75%. Biggest obstacle, according to MBA, is going to be continued to be supply of inventory that's available. For any of you who've seen our bulletproof buyer presentation, the statistics are pretty eye-opening in terms of new birth rates from 33 years ago to today moving forward, and number of homes being built. So simple supply and demand is going to continue to put pressure, and hopefully home builders will be able to build at a faster pace when they get out of COVID restraints and distribution challenges. So we want to talk about Dan's kind of insight on these projections and what to expect here. So Dan, looking at these projections, knowing that you study the market better than all of us combined, what would your thoughts be on this?
Well, it's an interesting time, Ryan, because I think the NBA does do a good job. I don't know that I can do a better job. I still have this belief that sometime next year, we're going to see a pretty surprising drop in rates, which will come because of a pretty surprising drop in the economy. And as I said before, back before the pandemic, I predicted a recession, and I said, and a couple of people actually kind of teased me about it, and not in a bad way, but just in a friendly way. How can you predict a recession and also say the home buying market's going to be strong? And I said, well, that's a simple macroeconomic issue. You have the millennials really coming into home buying age and creating families. I'm the father of 3 of them. 2 of them now have kids, and one of them has a house. The other's starting to look for a house. And then you have the boomers like myself that are looking to go smaller. We don't want a big house anymore. We want more lifestyle, I think. So that to me was going to sort of transcend anything that happened in the economy. Home buying would stay strong. I think those factors are even stronger now. I think the millennial percentage of home buyers is only going to grow next year in 2023. Again, sometimes I say this stuff and I try to sound like, oh, I've been so right. I only say this stuff because the same factors that have made me right, I think will continue to make me right. So I don't say it to like pat myself on the back. But I also said that back in 2019, 2020, that I thought that 2021 and 2022 would be a couple of the best years in the industry's ever seen. And that some of that would go over into 2023. I still believe that. And so when you look at the 2022 number, where do you have that annually? That was 2 point something trillion.
Yeah, the total number for 2022 is 2.378 trillion.
Yeah, so that would still be historically a really good year, but I think it's going to be much better than that. I think it's going to be much closer to 2021 because of those macroeconomic numbers. But more importantly, because I don't think that rates are going to be as high as people think that they are. Do you want me to get into rates a little bit, or am I getting ahead of you?
No, please. Yeah.
Okay.
So what I would say here, team, is for anybody watching, the best thing you can do is prepare for the assumption that rates go up, but also be aware of the fact that our crystal balls are oftentimes fuzzy and rates could also go down. So a big part of what we talk about our homeownership is team building. So when you think through, if rates do go down, do you have the team and infrastructure in place to handle an influx of volume? And if rates go up, can you grow into that volume so you don't have to, lay people off and shed marketing dollars and run a really great business either direction. So regardless of Dan's, prediction of up or down, I would say, listen to this as through a lens of, okay, well, what do we need to be preparing for?
I'm glad you said that, Ryan, because I do. I sometimes get people accidentally pumped up, and it's really, believe it or not, sometimes I'm wrong, and I feel really bad. So you really need to be prepared for anything. And I don't know if you saw my thought for the day. When they do the rate watch forecast every day, I have a thought for the day, and it was something to the effect of winners do not look at rates, the economy, their spouses, or any other environmental concerns. When business drops, they look at themselves. Because if you want to run your life based on some external event like interest rates, I'd go do something else. What a horrible way to live.
Right.
I mostly, we have a couple of businesses, but one of the big ones is we teach people how to trade options and bonds. And if I let my business be run by the markets, I'd be so horribly medicated. I'm slightly medicated, but because it does control you a little bit, but you can't let it dominate your life. That's the time that you really have to get moving. So thank you for that. And while I'm on that soapbox, it's not just about helping people buy homes. That's of course the most important thing, but it's also finding people that should be buying homes. We keep thinking about, we got to get our part of the market share, which we do, but there's people out there that don't even know they can buy a home, that we're not going after, the rental market, et cetera. More than ever, I mean, the rents are going up. I have a bunch of stats if we have time to go through them, but that's not going away. The rental market is going to continue to price people out. The vacancy factors are going to continue to become a problem, and people need to buy homes. They have to, or they're going to get priced out of their own lives. So, and they need to know that. So that's always been my thing, is rather than to go fight for the existing home buyers, I'm going to go find new home buyers that don't even know they're home buyers yet. It's much less competitive. So back to my rate feeling is, unless you're living under a rock, that we have a major supply chain problem. I'll throw a couple of stats at you. Right now, it's costing, let's put it this way, 1.5 years ago, it cost $2,000 to ship a container from China to the US. 2,000. Today it's 16,000. There are 67 freighter ships stacked up in Long Beach and Los Angeles right now. That normal number is about 14. They're stacked up around Catalina Island. That's how bad it is. One of our students is a pilot, and he sends me pictures, when he takes off out of Long Beach. And it's really trippy to look at that. And if you live anywhere near the coast over there, you can see what's happening. And it's railroad cars. Southern Pacific Railroad right now, they have 40% less employees than they did 18 months ago.
Wow.
You just drive anywhere down Highway 5 or any trip, and you're going to see nothing but billboards looking for truck drivers. There's a trucking shortage like we've never seen before. The railroad situation is so bad. When they offload these railroad cars, there's nowhere to put them, so they put them in these yards, these storage yards, and now there's no more room to store the cars, so they're parking one car behind the other, and there's no room to park it lengthways, so they're parking it horizontally, and when they do that, it's blocking 4 other cars, and it can take up to 4 weeks to move that thing. So we have billions and billions of dollars of stuff just stuck that we can't get to. Everything from you name it, even your beer is going to skyrocket because aluminum costs and barley costs. So I've been, I got some egg on my face because I've been Mr., there will not be inflation. I've never said there will not be inflation. I've said I agree with the Fed that it will be transitory, and I still agree with that. But I have to admit, I didn't really see just how bad the supply chain train was coming. It's way worse than I imagined, and I think that most people imagined, including the Fed. And I have said I do a weekly video for our members, and every week I show the cost of shipping rates. They call it the Baltic dry shipping costs. And I said, until that graph stops doing this, inflation's not going to stop doing this. And it's not settling down. It's probably going to get worse before it gets better. But what I've always said, and the reason I've been more a believer that inflation is not going to be around long, is I've said, what's changed from before the pandemic until now? Really nothing other than the supply chain. And the supply chain will fix itself. We just don't know when. And when the supply chain fixes itself, we're not going to have a problem. Inflation comes from two areas. One is push demand, and the other is pull demand. So more simply stated, either we don't have enough stuff, or we have too many buyers. Our inflation is not coming from people consuming more than they consumed last year necessarily. It's coming from a supply problem. And that type of inflation is less dangerous and is curable. When you have a pure demand problem and the supply can't be met just because demand just keeps coming, then that's a problem. Housing is a good example. I mean, housing has just been a combination of massive demand and a lack of supply. So I don't think we've ever seen that. It's usually one or the other. So my point back to rates is, when the supply chain is fixed, I don't know if that's next quarter or next year, I think inflation will instantly evaporate and rates will go down. Meanwhile, the Fed's got a problem, because if they do taper, and they will, I don't think the economy's ready for tapering, because he'd be tapering to stop inflation, not because the economy's on fire. And when he does that, you're going to end up with a stagnant economy, and you might still have inflation, because raising rates is not going to make the supply chain go away, not for 1 second. Raising rates or tapering, which might be the same thing, is going to cause a massive crash in the stock market. There's so many charts I could show you that correlate with the NASDAQ. When rates go up, NASDAQ crashes. Because all these tech companies depend on borrowing cheap to fund their growth. So when trillions of dollars are bled out of consumer wealth, the Fed's going to have to step in and try to save the day. So I think whatever he does, was it back in 16 or 17 when Powell first started tapering? And remember, Trump was just having this ridiculous temper tantrum.
Yeah. And
every day he was telling Powell how stupid he was. And it was actually mean. I'm not trying to get political. Some days I wish I had him back, but it was mean. And he kept saying that, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. I kept saying, you're right, but kind of back off. The guy's doing what he thought was right. But what I said was, he's going to walk that back. He's going to tighten, and within a quarter or two, he's going to walk it back in really fast. That's exactly what happened. He raised, and if you look at charts, it went like that, it went straight down. I literally think that we're going to see a repeat of that this time around. He's going to taper because he thinks he has to. That tapering is going to cause a massive slowdown, and then he's going to have to pump the pedal again. And hopefully that all happens as the supply chain's getting fixed. Does that make sense? I tie that together okay?
Yeah, it definitely does. So basically, team, what Dan is saying is that we may see inflationary pressures, because of the supply chain challenges, which are going to drive rates up, right? And along with Fed tapering and thoughts of Fed tapering, like, we're going to see the 10-year probably continue to climb for a little bit. But when supply chain fixes itself, and when money starts to move out of consumer wealth, then the Fed's gonna have to walk that back. And the combination of those two things means that we'll likely see rates then drop. So because of that, I instantly start thinking, okay, if I'm advising a homeowner, don't pay discount points right now, right? It's gonna, it's likely not going to be in their favor, right? Because whatever rate they buy at today, they'll likely be able to refinance that out of into a lower cost later. So trying to figure out, how to build a team and how to grow your production with this in mind, you just need to be ready for both sides of the trade, right? You need to be ready for rates to go up, meaning that you need to grow into your production needs to grow into that, because like the last thing you want to do as a mortgage professional, which means we're very much self-employed, is have to lay off team members, cut back on marketing, and get super skinny because the rates have gone up and your refinance business is dried. And now you just, you're not going to be spending your company's money. They're not going to let you do that, right? And you don't want to take money out of your checking account after paying taxes on it and invest it into your business. So you need to grow into your production with purchase business, and then be ready with that same team or even a more robust team in 2022, 2023 to catch the wave back down. Would you say that's accurate, Dan?
I think that's right on the money. And again, back to the whole well, I mean, really what you're saying is being nimble, and that's always a good thing. But I think based on Ryan's original point is most of us let our refi pipelines get way too big, and it really makes a lot of sense to focus on purchase right now. I know that's easier said than done, and this is hokey, but one of the best things that I always did when it was slow is hire high school students to pass out door hangers and put them in apartments. It was unbelievably inexpensive. I think we paid something like 6 cents a door because you didn't have the mail cost. I don't know now, if you can get the high school kids to even want to go to work. So even if you had to do a postcard direct mail campaign, but my gosh, we just get so many phone calls from apartment owners saying, "Are you serious? I could buy a home for less than I'm paying for rent." Now, I know where Ryan lives, and most places in SoCal and many places in NorCal, it might not be the case. But I also know, somebody willing to commute not far, and with so many people now being work from home, people don't necessarily have to buy in Orange County. They can buy in Corona or Temecula or something like that, and telecommute a few days a week, and literally have a cheaper house payment than their rent. And people just don't realize that. Everything they read, not everything, but most of what they read is telling them they need 20% down. When you start telling people they can buy with 3.5% down and with a credit score, around 600, people are floored. My own daughter was floored. She was not the most responsible out of college with her credit cards. And, she called me and asked me, how long do I think it was going to be before she could buy a house? I said, why do you think you have to wait? I know your mom and I will help you if you can afford an FHA payment. So we talked about how much the payment was. And she said, yeah, but Dad, my credit score is like 620. I said, that's fine. She goes, I thought I needed 720. I said, why do you think that? She goes, I read it, in USA Today or whatever. So just don't ever be surprised at how much misinformation is out there.
Yeah, one of our partners here is asking, what is one way to pull in some of those home buyers that are unaware they can buy a home? So Dan's strategy is a great one, right? There's so many people out there that can buy a home. They just don't know if they should, right? Or necessarily the first step on how to do that. It's interesting. A videographer that we work with was in the office yesterday, and we were doing some video, and he goes, look, I keep hearing that I should buy a home. I just don't know how. I don't know what the first step is, right? And so, one simple answer to this team is video, right? Put as much video content out into your community as you possibly can, and just keep ringing the bell that, not only can you own a home, but you likely should. And the only reason you don't is because you're afraid to have a conversation around it, right? You're afraid that someone's going to tell you no, or you're going to get bad news, or, that, you're telling yourself a story that, it's only for people who have a lot of money who can buy homes. We have hundreds of clients that will tell you that's not the case, right? So being able to put that information out there is helpful. A good rent versus own analysis video will help substantially. I'll show you guys kind of a slide here that we take people through. Let me move this over. Can you see this, Val? What I just moved over? Okay.
Yeah.
So someone paying $2,500 a month in rent, they're looking online and they're seeing a payment of on a $700,000 condo with 5% down. They're seeing a 39.35 payment, and that scares them. So they shut their computer, they throw it across the room, and they go watch Netflix. So we need to remove the emotion and start to create some logic with numbers. So if you're paying $2,500 a month in rent, knowing you're likely not going to stay in that rental for the next 5 years, you'll probably pay about $500 more to actually rent the place you want to live in for the next 5 years.
Easily.
And then easily, right?
Mhm.
And then you just look at how much rent's going to go up each year. We do a quick Google search. We see that it's about 5% on average, which means that it's going to go up $150 per year, which means that they'll be paying $37.50 over 5 years later. And on average, they'll pay $33.75 over the next 5 years to rent the place they actually want to live in. But they're going to make the mistake of comparing where they don't want to live and where they won't live versus what they would buy. And then you just break down the side-by-side example and you show them, hey, I'm not sure if you're aware, but after tax savings, you're only paying about $291 difference. But then when you take into consideration the principal payment, you're actually $800 ahead. Ask any person you know, how much are you going to pay your landlord over the next 5 years? No one knows the answer. You know why? Because it's a terrible exercise. Nobody wants to go through that and add that up. So you have to show them, hey, Dan, do you know over 5 years, you're going to pay your landlord $202,000 and have zero equity and zero tax savings? Whereas if you bought a home and we just used a 4% price appreciation, which it's likely to be double, but if we just use a conservative number, that $700,000 house goes to be worth $854. You pay your mortgage down to $593 just by making normal payments. You have $260,000 more in net worth versus zero, all while paying about $290 difference per month. That same client who threw their computer across the room and was scared now thinks it's financially irresponsible not to buy a home. But if you're the only one who knows that, you're not helping anybody, right? And being an Art of Homeownership partner, you have a really great tool that allows you to not only show someone how to own a home, but then commit to them that you're going to be there with them every step of the way for the next 30 years, right? Because one of the biggest reasons why a lot of millennials don't want to buy a house, it's not that they have a massive fear of buying it today, but they have a fear of commitment and being on, going at it alone. So I'll show you a slide here. I'm going to come, let me see if I'm going to come back to this real quick. I think this is a good time for it. Give me 1 second. So you see this slide here. This is why people are afraid to own a home. This is a 30-year pie chart. The amount of time that they spend being pre-approved, shopping for the home, and actually being in escrow or being in contract on that property is 0.06% of 30 years. The other 99.94% is the time that they're going to own this home and be on it by themselves. Like everything's on their shoulders. This black part is what scares people. They're going to have a mortgage person to talk to. They're going to have a realtor to talk to, their dad, their friend, their buddy. Like, this 0.06% of the time, they're going to have some help. But this time they won't. And that for a lot of millennials who grew up being very much, coddled and screens and information and and I am one, so I can talk about it. I'm a millennial. I qualify. I can say it. A lot of people get scared of this and they don't want to face that. Would you add to that, Dan?
I think you're right on the money. I mean, just using my own kid as an example, it's scary.
Yeah.
And we're in the business so we just think it's simple because it's all we think about. It's not simple to people.
Yeah. So let's go through this to help people a little more. Let me check the Q&A box here. So guys, what I just showed you there was our bulletproof buyer presentation. We will upload those and we'll turn it into Art of Homeownership Artifact, and we'll upload that presentation into the e-learning platform. I think it would be highly beneficial for you guys to train realtors on, to do, online seminars on. We do a lot of these things and we get a lot of people reaching out. So we'll make sure that you guys are armed with that information. So let's talk about business planning for 2022 and beyond. What do we want to focus on in your business to prepare for the new climate coming up? So things we can do right now. There's 8 pillars. Hopefully you all know about these 8 pillars. To my knowledge, there's not another source of where you would get your business from. Dan, if you know one, I'd love to make it 9 or 10. Let me know. So if you're a mortgage lender, realtor partners is a big one for you. If you're a realtor partner or a lender, all these other ones apply to you. So talking to the mortgage professionals on the platform right now, the best way you can help your realtor partners is to educate them as to what's coming and how to navigate through it. So the bulletproof buyer presentation that we'll upload into the e-learning platform is incredibly helpful. Val, it may be good for us to do a full session on that coming up here soon in the next couple of weeks. Being able to help them understand how to stand out in a marketplace that's very muddled when it comes to value proposition. If you can, I'm so confident that I could take any art of home ownership partner and helicopter you into any market in the country and drop you down. And within 30 days, you could be getting business from 10 of the top real estate professionals in that marketplace, because they drastically need what we have. Right? They need to differentiate themselves. They need to be able to show value. They need all the things that we need. Right? And you guys have the ability to offer that. Trusted professionals. I just had a call this morning with 13 Northwestern Mutual agents. For those of you who don't know, Northwestern Mutual is commonly known for hiring younger, talented professionals, teaching them almost exclusively about life insurance and financial planning, but nothing about real estate or mortgage. Not true for every financial professional, but there's a lot, CPAs, financial planners, estate planning attorneys, they focus on their profession. You can come in and be a division of their company if you structure it, if you present it to them correctly. I just spent an hour with them this morning talking about, what their clients are going to come to them with. Like, their clients are going to come to them asking questions about, should I buy a home? Should I take cash out? Should I invest money? Should I sell my property? What's going to happen in the housing market? And they don't want to be that person, right? They want to be the person they are. Same way that I don't want to sell life insurance or, invest people's money for them. So you should be all over trusted professionals because they need you now more than ever. Their clients are asking more real estate and mortgage related questions in 2021 and 2022 than they likely ever have. Would you agree with that, Dan?
Absolutely.
So make that a big part of your push. And again, both of these first two is a huge amount of purchase business right in these two areas. And trusted professionals will be refinanced as well. Direct to consumer, there's a myriad of ways you can do direct to consumer. I love the idea of blanketing apartment complexes or high rental areas in whatever capacity you can, right? If you want to door knock, if you want to drop flyers, if you want to do a mailer, invite them to an online event, invite them to an in-person event. If you're going to do, just a side note, if you're going to do an in-person event, make it online as well, right? So people can come, but also stream it so people can be there. Like, don't limit yourself to one or the other. But any sort of direct to consumer stuff is going to be really helpful. And I'm going to teach you guys a little trick here that I use a lot, and it has been amazing for me and my team and everybody that works with us. Is it when anybody asks you what you do for work, please don't tell them that you're a loan officer. Don't tell them that you're in the mortgage business. They will change the subject real fast.
Interesting.
So I was at an airport the other day, literally sitting like 2 feet away from a couple next to me, separated by a little bar. And the woman turns to me, she goes, "I'm sorry, I just feel super weird sitting like 2 feet from you and not talking to you." I said, "No, it is a strange feeling." She asked me what I was doing there. I said, I'm in Vegas for a mortgage conference. And she goes, "Oh, you're in the mortgage industry?" And I said, "Well, actually, we're in the process of changing the mortgage industry." And you can see her and her husband look at each other and look back at me, and nobody is ever going to stop talking to you at that point. right? They're going to ask you a follow-up question. What do you mean? That's your opportunity to tell them that you have a superpower and that you're redefining what it means to be a mortgage professional in today's world. It just so happened that she was a financial planner out of Idaho.
Wow.
We set up a meeting with her. We're now referring clients back and forth, and we've adopted her mortgage, right? So we're going to be managing her mortgage for her and her husband, and she's an Art of Homeownership member now. That's just literally one person who was sitting close to me in an airport. If you can't go do that 1,000 times, well, maybe you need to go to the airport more, or just get out, or, but you can do a same version of that on social media, right? Like, you can talk to your neighbors about it. You can talk to your friends. You can talk to, anybody you know in your sphere, which is the next version of that, which is be social, talk to your sphere, and put your message out there. Turn the phone around and just tell people that you're changing the mortgage industry. Ask me how, right? Click button.
Love that.
Because nobody wants to talk to you if you're just in the mortgage business, because they know 599,999 other people that are also in the mortgage business. So separate yourself, differentiate yourself, and be different. Same thing with real estate agents. If you're a realtor on this call, please don't tell people you're a realtor. Don't tell them you sell real estate. If someone asks you what you do, say, I'm actually changing the real estate industry right now. Wow, okay, what do you mean? Tell me more, right? You got an open door, and then adopt that client, move on. Corporate affinity partnerships. We have an Art of Homeownership partner, Sosi, who we're going to have on one of our upcoming events here. And Sosi just pitched the LA Galaxy soccer team, not just the team, but the stadium, all the employees. And it went so well because he pitched Art of Homeownership that he's actually looking at the parent company now, and they want to introduce him there. So, we use it with Facebook. There's people using this with corporate affinities across the country. And it's really interesting when an employer hears, hey, like, we can offer all of these products, all 8 of these services to all of our employees at no cost. And it can come from us as a employee benefit. Like, now you're not just asking for loans from a company. You're offering them tangible, valuable products that will move the needle in the life of their employees, that will create more financial freedom, that will embed the clients more into that employer's culture. So make that a big part of your business as well. It's not an easy thing to do, but if it's done enough, the doors will open. Banks and credit unions. We have a lot of brokers on the platform. We have a lot of direct lenders on the platform. We have a ton of products that banks and credit unions don't have, nor do they want. So you should be able to have relationships with those people. So in the event that a Wells or a B of A or a Schools First or anybody comes along and the client says, well, I think I'm going to use them because they're, whatever percent better. If they don't believe enough in your value proposition and they're going to go that direction anyways, then say, hey, if you're going to work with B of A, don't work with anybody at B of A. Work with my buddy Dan at B of A. I've known him for years. He's phenomenal. He operates similar to how we do. But if you're going to go that direction, let me put you in touch with him. You'll get the same rate, cost, discount, that whole deal. So you can actually refer clients to those people that are going to go that direction anyways. And then those same people will refer all of their outside the tiny little box that they have products to you for you to help. And then any save the day deals, which believe me, there's a lot of them. Builders is a massive one. Dan, what's happening in the builder space right now? We know that they're impacted. They're having distribution issues, supply chain issues. It's more expensive to build homes today than it has been. Do you see that opening up slowly? Do you seeing that when the supply chain is fixed, that they blow the doors off and go back to 2005, 2006 building numbers because they know that it's necessary? What are you seeing there?
Yeah, I mean, it's moving in that direction. The last building start stat we saw was the closest we've seen since 2006. So it's still not where it was in 2006, which tells you we still have a lot of upside. When I first looked at that, it scared me because I'm a contrarian. And when the 2006 number was so good, I said to myself, it's going to crash because when things get too good, they get bad. But there's absolutely no similarity to this market than we had last time. I mean, from FICO scores to down payments to credit underwriting, it's to just the demographics. It's a completely different market. And sometimes I think the builders forget about that. They actually took their foot off the gas pedal a little bit last quarter. And, I just from the research I did, some would say it was supply constraints and some would say it was, hey, we just got nervous with the economy slowing down with the Delta variant, et cetera. But they're real bullish right now. Builder sentiment's high. So I think it's going to continue to be a really important place to focus.
Yeah. So
What
oh, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I was just going to say that one thing again that was very successful, for our mortgage company when I was in the business is a lot of builders won't do it because they're too regimented. But some of the smaller builders, particularly where they let the local salespeople have some control, if you offer to follow up on their rosters, the people that sign in, and just say, look, I will put them in an organized database for you. I'll put them in a Google Share drive. I will update you. You'll be able to go on the drive every week and see exactly what these buyers are thinking about. You'll know why they went somewhere else, if they went somewhere else, because as you know, 98% or 99% of those people are not going to buy in that development anyway. And so what a great lead source if you put them into a drip campaign. Same thing with realtor open houses, by the way. It's
Yeah.
Most of them really appreciate it. Oh,
Yeah,
one more
100%.
thing too, because it just kept flashing on me. One of the greatest things we did from an open house standpoint, and believe it or not, this went through a pretty big company's compliance, is we bought like a lower end iPad and we did a drawing every Sunday. It wasn't just for one open house. Sometimes we combined open houses, but the deal was no more than 100 names would go in. So everybody always had a 1% chance for an iPad. And the realtors would actually put it in the MLS, come to our open house and enter this drawing for an iPad. And then we had like a little signs made, sign in here, because most people don't want to sign in on the roster, or they'll put their name as George Washington. You got to put your real name and email address if you want to win the iPad. Now, again, I get it right now. Open houses are not that big of a deal. The market's hot, but as we get into a more normalized purchase market, it could be a really good idea.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get back to the basics at some point. It's not gonna be this easy. But so, guys, what Dan was talking about here is, we see record number of homes being built, 4 years in a row from, basically 2003 to 2007. And then what we see is, fall off where we had 13 straight years, moving into 14 straight years below our 50-year building average. The reason that's problematic is because of this graph. So 33-year-olds are typically, when an average person buys their first home. It just so happened that 33 years prior to 2006, Roe v. Wade was passed. So there was 1 million less people born for about 10 years in a row than previously in the baby boomer generation. And it just happened to coincide with the timing of them building all these homes. So if they would have looked at the birth rates, they likely wouldn't have built that many homes because there just weren't that many people that needed to buy them. Contrary, we haven't built the right number of homes for the past 14 years, but here we are today. And for the next 24 years, we have baby boomer generation, 4 million people being born every single year with nowhere for them to live. All right. So this is the type of stuff that you need to be arming your agents with, taking to home buyer seminars, like taking to financial planners, letting them know how to answer the question, what's going to happen in the housing market. So all these things are going to be helpful as you're, working through this stuff. And when you go talk to a builder and show them how you can literally say, I'm going to say Val works for a home builder. I can say, Val, there's people that walk into your home that absolutely fall in love with it, right? Your model home is amazing. The problem is they then have to leave and figure out if they can pay for it. And that scares them. And then they have to consider that the market might crash. And I'll just do a quick little deal here. Give me a second. I'm going to type in housing market. That's it. That's all I'm typing in. Let's see what we got. Housing market is slowing. What else we got? Crash or boom next. This is actually a little bit better than what I looked at previously. When I typed this in previously, when I was creating this, these were the headlines that came up. Something big changing the housing market. Should you prepare for housing crash? Is the boom a bubble? Is the housing market crash on the way? Because we know that people don't click on fun, nice, good headlines. They click on scary headlines, right? Fear sells. So when you go tell a buyer or a home builder like Val, hey, the reason why people aren't buying your homes is they're not confident in their financial situation and they're not confident in the housing market. It has nothing to do with your actual product. Your product is great. But if you don't have somebody like me who's influencing and educating and motivating your home buyers to do things in the face of fear, you're just going to sell less homes. And not to mention, when they buy those homes, we have a platform to surround them and help them for the next 30 years. So they're not going to feel like they're doing this alone. Go tell a home builder that. And if you don't get a second meeting or their business, I'll give you $100. Just call the bet right now. And then lastly, people, it's just going to be database, right? And this is where Art of Homeownership is your superpower, right? We know what we give to our database. They see us every week. They hear from us every month. They hear from us every year, right? They know that we're managing their mortgage. You should have so much social currency built into your database that people are constantly telling their friends, their family, their coworkers, there's a different way to work with mortgage companies. You should talk to my lender and figure out how. If your database doesn't feel that way, talk to them more, right? Let them know you've invested in a platform that's going to help them be a very successful homeowner, but it doesn't work unless they know about it and unless you guys stay connected. So again, when we're talking about being prepared for the future, if you can dial in these 8 pillars today, when you may be a little bit slower, you can grow into the upward part of interest rates by getting more business and not have to scale down your team or your marketing or your budget or your allocation. Because what you don't want to do is ride the roller coaster with everyone else, right? You want to get off at the top of every roller coaster. You want to let it go down, and then you want to catch it again on the top because you're ready for it. But the normal cycle is, do a bunch of business, build a team, market goes challenging, got to lay everybody off, got to pull marketing dollars back, get skinny, right? Along with everybody else. So now you're at the bottom, and then you got to build back up. So the best companies and the best mortgage professionals don't grow when things are good. They grow when things are bad.
Brian, that is one of the most important points. And loan officers forget this all the time. When is your mail? Just you open up your mailbox and it's flooded with direct mail. It's when things are great. Yep. And these LOs spend so much money when it's already falling off of trees, and they spend all of their capital, all their marketing dollars when they don't need to, and they don't have a penny to spend when the mailboxes are empty. That everybody's ears are wide open right now. Now is the time to be hitting the direct mail. You can go to Equifax. You know that the average time a homeowner is in their home, what does it run? Did it move up to like 7.2 years?
Yeah, it's up to 7 now. It used to be 5, now it's 7.
Yeah, it's jumped. Go to Equifax and buy mailing lists of people that have been in their homes for 6 years and 9 months. The probability standpoint is they're going to move. I live on probabilities. Look at certain interest rates where they're probably kind of like should refi, but they probably don't want to, and they've been in the home for 7 years. That's a direct mail piece where they might be ready to move. That renters, with certain income levels, et cetera, because right now people are opening their mailbox and there's not much in it. So we always did that. We tried to keep our powder dry for when it did slow down, and we didn't find a need to spend a lot of money. And what that did is it smoothed out our income, where the average guys are just having these amazing years when it's good, and then these horrible years, like you said, when it's bad. By spending properly, you can really even out your life. And
team, there's a lot to say, and we know people don't read, right? We're not a reading society. So the best thing to do would be to have an easy headline that says, I created this video specifically for you and your family. Please scan this QR code to watch it. Right? So you send them a mailer. There's a QR code. It says that you created this specifically. They scan it. They're instantly watching a video on their phone. Right? So you get to get the message across without them having to read 2 pages of all the things that are important. You could literally do that in a minute, but if you had to write it, it'd be 2 pages long. So think through stuff like that.
That's
Um,
smart.
but from a partner impact, right? This doesn't, if you think about this in kind of, a silo where you're just thinking, okay, well, I need to do this for my business. You have a lot of other people out there that are also in a silo. If you can combine those things, right, there's a lot of power by removing silos and bringing everybody together. Your realtor partners are thinking the same thing, and they go through the same challenges, right? Everything's great, and then they ride the roller coaster. Everything's great, and they ride the roller coaster. Help them not do that, right? Tell them how you can help them with 7 of these 8 pillars, because they're one, right? CPAs, financial planners, estate planners, all your trusted professionals. Help them understand how they can do this, right? Tell everybody on social, right? Go to corporate affinity, go to corporations and tell them how their employees are going to have to ride a potential recession and deal with rising housing prices and inflation ups and downs. One of the number one reasons why companies struggle with productivity, and look, you guys have this in the e-learning platform. You have an entire pitch deck that talks about how solving financial stress creates increased productivity and less turnover. And we can solve that for companies, right? Like you have that pitch deck in there. So don't just think about yourself, think about how this impacts your partners and what we do to prepare them. Let me move on. We got about 7 minutes left here. So this is a slide I showed you earlier. I jumped ahead a bit. Our clients and our past clients, we need to prepare them for a bit of this roller coaster as well. We should be letting people know, hey, rates might climb up a little bit. We are expecting them to potentially move down in 2022 and 2023. Here's why. Literally rewind this recording to the first 15 minutes and just say what Dan said, right? And then put that video out to your clients and let them know that you want to manage their mortgage even more closely because of it, right? And then make sure that you have all the data in the CRM. Daily AI can monitor and track that for you really well, right? So just make sure that all of your clients' data is in there, and then make sure they know, hey, there's going to be some ups and downs, but what that means is there's also going to be opportunities, right? There'll be opportunity for you to buy other property. There'll be opportunity for you to move up. There'll be opportunity for you to potentially downsize depending upon where you are in life, buy investment properties, access capital in the home to do certain things, reduce your monthly payment, pay your home off faster, take that savings that you get from your monthly payment and increase your retirement plan. If they know that you're on top of all that stuff, there's no chance they're not going to engage, because nobody else is trying to help them. Right? There's a lot of people trying to sell them stuff, but you've already let them know that that's not who you are and that's not what you do. So make sure that you use the information that Dan shared in regards to where rates are trending and where they're likely to go and the potential for them to move down. People should know that. Like if you've given that information and they watch it happen, they feel better. They feel more cared for. They feel like they have an advisor. And I've said this before, but people aren't wealthy because they have money. They're wealthy because they have information. Right? And if you can be the source of that information, like their family office, right, that 99.9% of America will never have, right, then you're not trying to beat the competition. You've just simply made them irrelevant. So we will close with this. So your mindset going into this new climate, get your teams on the same page. If you're the only one on your team that knows about art of homeownership, it's like trying to row a 6-person boat and you're the only one with the paddle, right? Everyone needs to know what you're doing and why we're doing it. Like everyone needs to be bought into that just cause, and they should know the roller coaster that they're heading into, because processors and there's companies out there laying off underwriters and processors and closers and funders right now. There's a large company, I won't mention the name, but they're down like 93% in revenue. And yeah, they're doing some massive layoffs and, people are scared. Your team needs to know that you have a plan. That's one of the reasons why our company is growing so fast, is that it's an actual plan that they can tell their employees and say, hey, we know that rates may move up. things may slow down. We're going to grow into that slowdown. And then we expect this to happen and we expect that to happen. Like that type of vision is going to help your teammates substantially. So again, you don't have to do everything we just said, right? Just prioritize one thing and make sure everyone's focused on that and then do the next, right? So whether it's referral partners, consumer education through social media, involvement in the community, telling people what your superpower is, that's, prioritize one thing at a time and get those things done. And Dan beat us to the punch. We stole his thought of the day here.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right. It was timely. But according to Dan, when business slows down, winners don't look at rates, the economy, their companies, their spouses, or any of the circumstance. They look at themselves because they refuse to be victims of any situation. Take control and always win. You all have a superpower that, Danny Harani calls it a weapon of mass destruction against the mortgage industry. Go use that. Right? Like my ability to sit at an airport and tell someone I'm changing the mortgage industry and engaging and everything that comes from that is something that I could not have done without this. I could have said, oh, we have the best rates in town. And she would have been like, oh, this guy. Right? Like nobody wants that. So let's spend the last couple of minutes here. Dan, would you add any parting words to anybody here?
No, I just think this is really timely. I love that you're doing this. I love the information. It's perfect. One thought I had, I haven't tried this before. I've been offering it. No one's taken me up on it, maybe because it's not a good idea. But I think it'd be interesting, maybe with your group, Ryan, if we did some sort of home buying expo, a virtual home buying expo. And I always had success actually telling the realtor what I'm trying to do and have them invite their clients. No one's going to steal their clients. No one's even going to know their clients, especially in a virtual event.
Right.
And you're now getting a chance to pitch your realtor's clients. Tell your insurance agents you're doing a home buyer expo. Circulate tickets to the thing, and maybe do what you're doing, but more toward consumer. I'd be happy to speak at it. Speak in consumer friendly manner, and maybe we get a few hundred people, and the yellows will really be adding value to the consumers' lives. Gives them a reason to follow up with people. Hey, what'd you think of that? Anything I can tell you about it, as a follow-up.
Dan, I love that idea. And you just told the world's most number one implementer in Val. So
I'll reach out to you, Dan.
Okay. I think it'd be fun. I mean, what do we have to lose? Let's try it.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. We'll invite all the Art of Homeownership partners to invite their realtors and their clients, and we'll do it on behalf of Art of Homeownership. We'll bring you some other speakers, and I think that would be phenomenal. So consider it done.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, team. Well, it is top of the hour here. So I want to thank you all for being here today. Hopefully this was helpful. Please go use your superpower for good and be prepared for the roller coaster to come. Dan, we really appreciate you, man. Thank you for taking the time and always for your expertise.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, guys. Talk soon.
Thanks, Dan.
Bye.